happen, to sustain, to create retention among your customers, there are few strategies that you can actually employ to increase the wallet share, and also to ensure that once you are ready to grow again, they are there to support your organization. Now, I have done some background research in terms of what are the best practices that has been employed, and this research is actually derived from some of the research published by MIT as well as Harvard Business Review. So based on 70 years of research, so they have discovered that basically there are 5 key strategies that we need to focus on in trying to ensure your customer relationship outlasts coronavirus or any epidemic. So the 5 key strategies are: number 1 is to humanize your company. Number 2 is to educate them about change. Number 3 is how you communicate to your client and assure them of stability. Number 4 is to revolutionize your offerings. And number 5, bear in mind that things will get better. So how do you tackle the future? So these are the 5 things that I'll be discussing in the following slides. So number 1, how to ensure your customer relation outlasts coronavirus. Strategy number 1 is to humanize your company. So one of the key things that needs to be taken care of is that now that the whole pandemic has actually affected your day-to-day operation, it's affected your supply chain, and government has also introduced certain regulation, social distancing, only essential items are allowed to be sold, and so on. And then only head of the family or one representative are allowed to actually go and purchase stuff. So one of the key things that you need to ensure is that you need to let your customer know that you understand the dire circumstances that happen to them, and you need to show that you care about the people than simply trying to reap profit from them. And one thing to caution is that it's good to show empathy, but not over the top. Meaning to say, just empathize, because if you go too much, you'll be seen to be not genuine, and you end up suffering like what most of companies are doing. They are showing empathy too much to the point that it does not sound genuine. So you empathize those affected, and more importantly, you need to start spell out the steps that you are taking to serve your customers. And we talk about customers, it's not just on the buying side, it's also your other stakeholders. For example, those doing social enterprise, your beneficiary. Because when this happened, suddenly they have lost one of their channel to earn income. At the same time, you also need to communicate to your employees. So how would you be functioning throughout this coronavirus period, throughout this pandemic period? So that's why companies need to come out with SOPs or even guidelines in terms of how to work from home, what kind of technology they'll be using, what kind of working hours, and etc. And at the same time, you also need to manage other stakeholders. For example, your donors, your investors. So they need to be communicated. And ideally, you should be utilizing your company's official social media sites and also your customer mailing list. So this is a time for you to utilize. And I'm sure that some companies are suddenly realizing that even though I'm a brick and mortar business, I should have collected my customers' contact details. And I'd like to show you on the right-hand side, there are some examples of companies out there, what they have been doing. For example, Sugarfish, how do they humanize their companies? Since they are not able to function like the normal days. So instead of laying off their staff, they have actually redeployed their waiters to become dispatcher. So they are the one personally sending the food ordered by their clients. And another interesting case study is with Hema. Hema is actually a new supermarket chain owned by Alibaba. So what happened is that they opened a new store, and then because of the huge influx of people buying necessity goods and ordering it through online, so they have shortage of labor. So what Alibaba did was they worked together with other companies in China, whereby some of those restaurants they redeploy the staff to work with Hema or Alibaba for certain period of time. So that enables them not to lay off, that enable them to show the human side of the organization. And among the interesting case studies, the local case studies that I have personally encountered is some of the SE under MaGIC. What they have done is, no doubt, they have their core businesses, but since their core businesses are no longer uh, relevant at this point in time, so they have switched. For example, kumpulan KTJ, kumpulan tukar jahit, or even Athena Empowers that did that does reusable sanitary pad. So what they did is they switched some of their beneficiaries to sew reusable face masks. So this enabled them to help the other beneficiary to continue to have jobs and to gain some income. Now, this is strategy number one. Strategy number two is to educate your consumer about how to deal with you, how to interact with you throughout this period. So among the key things that you need to communicate with your customers is the changes to your operation in terms of what hours are you operating, any facility closures, are you affected? Let's say there might be a staff reductions, and how would you deal with it? And then customer service availability, what would be the hotline, how to contact you, and what other ordering options that is available. This is particularly important to educate your consumer. Again, when talk about consumer, not just your buying consumer, but also your beneficiary. I'm amazed at some of the social enterprises. They are able to actually educate their beneficiaries to use simple stuff like WhatsApp for training, the recorded videos, so that they can produce certain goods based on the SOP that they have provided. So indirectly, some of the beneficiaries has been trained to work remotely. So this is commendable. So the point of strategy number two is, it is better for the organization, for your organization, to be viewed as proactive and doing things in the best interest of the customer. So recently, one of the startup founder was complaining to me, talking about some of the logistic companies uh, were not being proactive in terms of announcing which particular outlet are open if they want to send their goods. So some companies made a slight, uh, not to say blunder, but a slight mistakes, in the sense that they emphasize so much on the stores that are not open, to the point that the stores that are open are not being highlighted properly. Because at the end of the day, customers are not interested to know which stores are closed. They are more interested in terms of the solution. So it's better to educate them which stores are open rather than the ones that are closed. Among the examples that I have come across is Lululemon is actually an athletic apparel company, and also Apple. So they have taken the proactive measure. In fact, they have closed their stores before the government's announcement. And what they did is they explained through their formal communication channel how to make purchases and how are the goods are going to be delivered. And more importantly, they also explain, should you encounter any problem with the goods that we have sent to the client, there is a very flexible return policy introduced by this company. And another interesting case study in China, there's an article in Harvard Business Review sharing about what are the Chinese companies doing during this coronavirus period. One of the interesting case study is Lin Kin Swan. So this is a cosmetic company. So they have a whole chain of stores around China. So since they are not able to open their stores, so they have redeployed all their beautician to become digital or sales, digital marketing personnel. And the interesting thing is that once they are able to train their employees to become digital sales personnel or digital marketer, their sales for the same period in 2020 outperformed the same period in 2019. So it was reported that their sales increased by 200% during the same period. So this is another interesting case study of how they eventually educate the customer to go online and eventually also educate their internal employees so that they can also do businesses online. Now, the third strategy is to assure consumers that the company values will continue. Now, there are some very interesting examples that I've come across. For example, there's a fabric company in India. So they have taken the proactive measure of sending out official communication to their clients, educating them and also confirming them that they are doing things that are beyond the ordinary. For example, they took the liberty to tell the consumer how would the fabric be affected by coronavirus and what are the steps they are taking to ensure that whatever things that they are sending to customers is safe to be used or to be touched by the consumer. So this is particularly important because you want to ensure that you maintain your value proposition. And because of the COVID incident, there is also a need because now that the consumers are fearful of the virus, people need to know or what kind of added value proposition that you will be introducing to ensure that their fear are being alleviated. And maybe there's also time for you to innovate. For example, some supermarket change, they understand that apart from the rule of social distancing, so they have even went beyond to maintain their value proposition of providing convenience by introducing drive-through services. So you can just order whatever groceries you wanted, and then you can just drive through to come and pick up your the goods that you have ordered. So it's very important to ensure consumers is aware of your values and you will preserve it, and you might even add on certain new value proposition during this pandemic period. And strategy number 4, so this is a time for you to revolutionize what consumer value about your business. So apart from maintaining your existing value proposition, so this is the time for you to come up with a certain innovation. And for those who have attended some of the courses in MaGIC, so you will realize that innovation does not just hinges on product. You can also, there are 10 types of innovation that you can actually utilize apart from product innovation. So you can innovate in terms of your process. You can innovate in terms of through your network. For example, some SE working together with other NGOs to provide opportunity for the B40 beneficiaries so that they can solve, for example, producing PPEs, producing face masks, and etc. At the same time, giving jobs through the collaboration that they have sealed with other NGOs. And it's important for you to tell them how you are serving them in new ways. So, for example, Food Ruckus is actually a hamburger store in America. So they know that they can't be doing one of the issues that is facing in America is a shortage of bread. So instead of just producing hamburger, so they also have changed a bit in terms of their business model by focusing on producing bread. And I think similarly, recently, just in front of my housing area, even NZ Curry House in front of my house is also changing. Recently there's a fiasco regarding the shortage of bread by Gardenia and other providers. So NZ Curry House, apparently they have an industrial machine to produce bread. So now they are selling bread in front of our houses. And My News, they also did the same. They also produce their own breads and to meet the current shortages. And another interesting case study is that even liquor companies in America are also changing their business products and services, whereby they are using the chemicals, the alcohol that they have to produce hand sanitizers to meet the current needs of the market. And finally, strategy number 5 is to bear in mind that you need to also prepare and tackle the future. So now that our restricted movement order have been recently extended, and somehow or other we also need to bear in mind, put a timeline, when do we want to reevaluate the changes that we need to do on our company's operation, because we need to comply with government imposed limits, social distancing, practice good hygiene, and what are the things that you can do beyond those imposed limits. So it is important for us to show the customers that we are willing to go beyond for their benefit. Like in the case of some SEs, so they are changing their products and services so that their beneficiaries are still getting jobs and getting economic opportunity. BTOP bring the opportunity, one of the SE under MaGIC that is based in Kota Baru. So they have already started to come up with SOP, because they have archery programs for kids, for teenagers. So they have started to reevaluate their SOPs once the classes are resumed. How to ensure the social distancing, how to ensure that the trainer also adhere to the social distancing requirement. And we can also see that a lot of stores have put up tape lines to ensure that all these rules and regulations are being adhered to. So this is also a time that companies can actually brainstorm what are the things that they can actually do so that they can introduce new improvement, because some of these new improvement might eventually become permanent improvement in your business model. And don't forget to also communicate these new improvements that you're working on to your customers, because at the end of the day is you want to send a positive signal to your customers that you are taking ownership, so that you care for them, and that business will eventually go back to usual with a lot of precautions and measures that are being taken up. So now, in order to do all those strategies that I have mentioned, it is also important that what kind of mindsets that we need to actually adopt to make this a success. So I like to quote from Janine Garner. She introduced a book called It's Who You Know, How a Network of 12 Key People Can Actually Fast Track Your Success. So she differentiates in terms of when you build relationship, even with your customers, with your beneficiaries, it is very important to move beyond a transactional relationship to a transformational relationship. So a transactional relationship, in a nutshell, is about I'm just thinking about how I can make money from you, I can leverage from you. So I'm sure that you can recall, maybe you've seen people collecting a lot of business cards, but ended up those relationships, those business cards are not really that meaningful. So it's important when for our team members, for ourselves, to make sure that we build a transformational relationships. Now I'm just going to share with you some comparison. In terms of result, transformational relationship is very strategic in nature, whereas transactional relationship is very operational. It's just I give you something, you just pay me. Whereas transformational, it's about I gain something, you gain something, in terms of personal growth and etc. In terms of ownership, transactional is out of control. For example, certain e-commerce is very transactional. You just buy and then you just add it to your cart and then that's it. Whereas transformational, since You want to build a relationship beyond dollars and cents, so you have control. And this is a time for you to relook into your customer mailing list. Why don't you give them a call or have a hangout session with them? Uh, Share what you are doing, share what are their problems, and maybe there's opportunity for you to introduce solution. In terms of engagement, transactional is about give or take. Transformation is about mutual value of exchange. In terms of behavior, transaction is very stable because it's just buying and selling. In terms of transformation, it's about leverage. For example, today the program it's a collaboration between MaGIC and also from CEDAR. So we are able to the behavior is to leverage on the goodness that both parties can provide. In terms of location, transactional is very close and very much the same. In terms of transformational, it's very open, it's very diverse, can happen anywhere or anytime. And in terms of depth of connection, transactional is normally very shallow, whereas transformational is very deep. You go beyond your means to actually make things happen. In terms of focus, transactional is very much on quantity, whereas transformation, it's about the quality of the relationship. And in terms of purpose, transactional is just merely about business building. Transformational, it's beyond that. It's also for personal growth. And these are the mindsets that is essential to ensure those 5 strategies are being executed in a good manner. And just to sum it up, in terms of building a transformational relationship, there are technically 4 types of people that you need to seek out. First are the promoters. These are the people that help you to become more. Promoters are people that actually make noise about your potential, your possibilities, inspire you to dream big. So this is important during this tough period for you to relook into your relationship. And then there might be among your network that there are people who can actually promote you and help you to make connection with others during this tough period. The second category is pit crew, people who care more about you. So these are just like pit crew in F1. So you stop to just refill. So you also need people that can actually help you to keep you on track. People that nurtures you on a personal, emotional level and prevents untoward emotion from getting the better of you. And you also need to identify people that can actually help you to know more. So these are your teachers that help you to develop knowledge, wisdom, and foresight. And you also need to identify people that can help you to do more. These are described as butt kicker, people that can accelerate your journey, push you to do more, and hold you accountable for your actions. So these are some of the people that you need to actually look out for during this pandemic period, because some of the problems that you might be encountering sometimes can actually be solved by the people around you. So I'm just skipping this part, and then just a bit of closure before wrap up is regarding the decision and action. All right. So now assuming that you have revisited your business, so let me just enlarge this. So these are the focus area they are looking at. So first step that you can actually do is to revisit all these 20 focus areas. And then determine, as you can see, there are 4 boxes here. So this represents the strength of each and every focus area. For example, this is 25%, 20%, 75%, and 100%. So in today's case, since I'm focusing on strengthening customer relationships so that it can outlast the coronavirus, so I'll be focusing on the green side, this green side. So let's say I've decided I need to strengthen my sales, I think my marketing, and also my communication. So let's say these are the areas that I need to work on. And this exercise, once you have done it, is good for you to talk to a coach or talk to a mentor. So for the audience information, MaGIC has actually have a platform where you can engage with the mentors or even coaches. So do look out at mymagic.my. There's actually opportunity for you to get mentoring sessions. So please make use of the opportunity. So this exercise is good once you have determined which focus area that you want to focus on. So let's say now that I wanted to strengthen. So I feel that I need to relook into my marketing, sales and services, communication and PR. So from those focus area, so I need to translate it into decision and action. So take for example, I've decided to strengthen customer relation. So this is the decision that I've taken. So one of the things that I need to do is to, let's say, redeploy my retail store staff to become digital marketer. So let's say this is the thing. So first is redeploy them to my staff to become digital marketer. So one of the things that I need to break it down into small action. For example, I need to produce an SOP, standard operating procedure, how to work from home. That's number one, action number one. Action number two, I need to provide the resources, the phone, the top up, internet, digital collateral, so that my staff can execute the digital marketing activities. Apart from providing the resources, I might need to do an online training on copywriting, maybe storytelling, how to select pictures, and etc. So after I have determined what are the decision and these are the action, so now I need to determine when am I going to do it. So under the go through system, so it utilizes a 30, 60, and 90 days. For example, the SOP from work from home. I think this is very crucial. I think this needs to be done in immediate. Provide resources maybe within 7 days. Or this have to be done in 30 days. And similarly, this have to be immediate as well. So apart from determining the timeline, the time frame, you also need to determine who is the person that is going to do this. For example, SOP work from home. Maybe I will ask the head of HR to do it. Let's say, for example, I put Mr. YY. Provide resources. This is maybe I would request from my superior, Puan Safuratan. Maybe online training, copywriting, etc. Maybe I'll have Azizul from the marketing department. And then this needs to be communicated to the team members so that they are clear in terms of the decision and also action. So this is just one sample. And of course, you can have more things that to add on. So this particular worksheet, I think we'll be sharing it with MaGIC so that the participants can actually download it and try to make use of it. And should you need more information, so feel free to reconnect with us. We are more than happy to actually facilitate the participant to go through this pandemic in a more successful manner. So maybe now we'll open for a Q&A session. So maybe I'll pass it over to Roslyn.
Thank you, Zusuff. That was very useful for me especially, and I hope for everyone else. A lot of new eye-opening sharing there. Yes, we do have questions on this end. Well, Muhammad Zaid was saying sektor peruncitan sekarang semakin bagus dalam tempoh PKP. Cuma I think dia nak tahu bagaimana sektor ini boleh survive selepas PKP. Peruncitan.
Berunjitan.
Dalam PKP, like you were saying tadi kan, people are changing.
True. I think I also come across. I think it's the same trend. It's the same trend that is happening not just in Malaysia but also in US. I think this is one of the industry that has the highest numbers increase in terms of their sales. So now the question is, how do you sustain it? Macam mana kita nak sustain supaya all these customer that come to us will come back again. So number one is, of course, uh, reevaluate what is the value proposition that attracted them to come to you. That's number one. And if, for example, one of the things that they like about it is because of the convenience, so you should figure out ways how you can ensure that you can still offer the same type of convenience and start collecting their database so that after the pandemic period is over, you can still serve them. And I like to quote an example from a book, When, written by Daniel H. Pick. So he was mentioning the most important period when you are dealing with customer is the first touch point and the last touch point, the beginning and the end. That is the most important. According to studies, books that is written, if the opening line and the closing line is interesting, people will finish reading it. And then he tested it out into other sectors as well. So, for example, there was one example in a restaurant. For example, what they did was a sushi restaurant. When people walk out from their store, so they wanted to create an emotional customer experience, a wonderful delight to this customer. So once the customer walk out from the door, all the staff would stand up, they would clap their hand, they would bow down, and they would say thank you to that customer so that the customer remembers them well and want to come back. That's example number one. Example number two is that, for example, someone came to your store, and then let's say a restaurant, for example. So after eating, this one restaurant, what they did was that, so they give the bill to the consumer, to the customer, and then they mentioned that due to the pandemic period, part of the profit, part of the proceeds that we gain from this business today from you will be donated to a charitable body. So now I'm giving you three samples, three options. Could you help us to decide where should we park the money? Is it to produce PPE for this hospital, or should we do face masks for the frontliners, the police, and the people in the uniform, or should we provide food to this particular home shelter? So they create a feel-good feeling before the customer leaves the premise. So similarly, I think this is something that even retail store can emulate, whereby think of what would be, how do you create a very memorable experience entering your store. For example, you have a very fantastic welcoming SOP. For example, you provide, first come in, you get a hand sanitizer. Before you go home, there's also another hand sanitizer for you to actually wipe your hands, so that show that you care and then it's safe. Or you could even ask them, introduce them, or okay, we will also be introducing more value proposition, convenience, i.e. we can also send the goods to your home at a very affordable rate. So would you like to in future order stuff from our store, and we can send it to you at a very minimum charge? So this is some of the things that you can start to think of. What are the small gestures that you can actually do so that the beginning and the end of the interaction is memorable to the client? I hope that answers the question or triggers some ideas. Any other questions, Rosalie? Oh, there's a question here from an anonymous attendee. Apa pandangan anda tentang strategi kerajaan dalam membantu peniaga PKS
Ya, betul.
dalam menghadapi situasi PKP ini? Apa yang perlu kerajaan lakukan lagi tanpa menyentuh kepada tambahan peruntukan sedia ada? So I think first and foremost, I think there's a lot of government initiative that is very highly commendable. I think even small things like giving 1 GB of internet, even allowing essential items to be operationalized. And yesterday I did came across there's a report shared by a group of researchers from amongst the research academician, whereby they are studying partial allowance of certain businesses to start operating. So I think this is something good. Probably apa yang kerajaan boleh bantu lagi PKS dalam nak menghadapi situasi PKP ini is to actually I think number one is to ensure effectiveness of dissemination of information. For example, there are some agencies they are providing even zero interest loan. There are also a lot of free available infrastructure that entrepreneurs can actually make use of. So these are potentially things that can be leveraged by the entrepreneurs. Or in fact, dari segi hikmat nasihat perniagaan, I think one of the thing ialah pertama, kebanyakan usahawan is actually now at the moment a lot of them are facing moral breakdown. So I think if you have problems with your business and so on, I think it's best to get in touch. You can even go to MaGIC website, or you can even contact CEDAR, or you can even go to Institute Keusahawanan Negara, because they are providing free business coaching that can actually help the PKS to actually come up with a strategy on what would be the best option for the entrepreneurs at the moment. I think this is very essential, because there's a lot of things going on in your mind, and then by sitting alone, sometimes you might not be able to come up with answers. So it is best to talk to someone, preferably talk to another business, another entrepreneur, or even business coaches. And some of the government agency are providing these services for free. So reach out to them, utilize it, and then hopefully you'll be able to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Okay, thank you. Apa ni? Zusuff,
Yeah.
ada a few people asking whether they boleh dapat your slides. But for them yang asking tu, we will be posting recordings of this session ke our Facebook and our YouTube channel also. So you can always go back and watch again. Tentang slide tu, Zusuff kan, shall they contact
Yes.
directly?
I think there's two options. Either later I'll share it with Team MaGIC. So
Okay.
maybe it's good. You can also collect the leads.
Yeah, okay.
Collect the leads. And then there's also a question from
ada.
Mr. Rizalman.
Rizalman, kan?
How to manage customer stigma that all is affected and would not spend. Wanted to save more. The business will get affected a lot. I think in terms of information, in terms of managing stigma, I think this is where each and every one of us can actually help to spread the positivity by doing within our own means, spreading the good things that's happening, and then start to show that actually business is still doable even during this tough period of time. And it's also important to show that there's a lot of collaboration is being going on, and post it via the online channel. And to counter this kind of perception is to, rather than trying to argue with people who have this negative stigma, is to show and tell, rather than trying to convince them. Because at the end of the day, I mean, there was a question. I remember there was a question asked by a companion of Prophet Muhammad, is asking when is the day of judgment. So rather than answering him that when is the day of judgment, of course the Prophet himself also do not have the answer, the Prophet asked him a better question, which is, what have you prepared to face the judgment day? So that is more important. So for example, in the case that if some entrepreneurs feel that, oh, people are not buying and so on, so the question is, so what are you going to do about it? So are you just going to sit still, or you going to realize that the situation is unprecedented? So maybe I should talk to a coach, or maybe I should talk to other entrepreneurs in terms of what kind of things are within my means. For example, some of my friends, I think apparel is one of the industries that are heavily affected. So what my friend did was, he changes from selling apparel to selling PPEs and also face masks, things that are the current needs of the market. So we can't change the scenario, but we can actually change what we do. So I think that's more important.
Yes, yes, it is. Satu question, Zusuff, on your tadi model relationship tu, transactional versus transformational.
Yeah.
Question is, during this MCO where everybody is the same house, like locked in one same small constraint,
Yeah.
does that, can they use that, or does that work for personal relationship? And then sometimes people take other people for granted, and now maybe it should be transformational even between family members or adik-beradik. What's your view on that?
Yeah. I think this is the beauty of technology. Like, we can actually utilize the technology. For example, in my own capacity, I realized that I think sometimes we have not been in touch with our friends. Even when there's no pandemic, I think some of us are not even in touch. So what we can actually do is to initiate certain initiative. For example, you can have a sharing session, sharing expertise session, and get the friends, get the family members to actually share them using Zoom or whatever medium. So start to build and cultivate that transformational relationship initiative. Sometimes you can have book reviews. You can have sharing about. I mean, what I personally try to do is, among my alumni, my uni alumni, is that we try to schedule to have a weekly sharing session. So the sharing session should be not more than maybe 10 minutes, and then another 5-minute discussion, and then another 5-10 minutes just to catch up on what everyone is doing. And then that enable us to rekindle the relationship. At the same time, we get to say hi and see, maybe through by knowing what everyone is doing, there might be potential for us to collaborate and do more goods together, for all you know.
Yeah, betul, betul. Next kat sini is asking, one of the challenge that he has during MCO is packaging, and because most factory are closed.
Mm-hmm.
What's your thought on that? Relationship with other
Yeah,
providers.
I think of course, I think one is to relook into our network and see how many whether within our network is there anyone that can actually help us to connect with any other people with uh, additional resources or even contacts to resolve our challenges. That's one option, if we are able to find it. That's why it's important for us, even business people, to have a lot more contacts and see who can help. That's one. Number two, if that's not possible, then maybe this is time for us to innovate. So innovate in terms of our process. And uh, this, I mean, of course, is a lot more work to do. It might require even communication with our clients, informing them. The packaging would be different due to the COVID-19 situation. And I think with proper communication, I think hopefully the customer would be more accepting, and maybe you can add on certain additional value proposition just to counter uh, the inability to send it using the same packaging. I mean, this is just a thought. Maybe it requires more time to brainstorm.
Yes, yes, I think it does. Let me check kat sini. Kat Zoom, I don't think we have any more questions. Kat YouTube, let me see. Nothing more at this point. Any last words from you, Susu? What's one thing you want to say to the people out there that's listening right now? whether in relation to this topic or in relation to the MCO?
So I think at the end of the day, so I think the most important thing is to, number one, if you are stuck, don't stay alone. Don't try to figure out on your own. So maybe you need to talk to someone. So at the end of the day, you need to identify, you need to assess your current situation, determine what will be your focus, and then make decision and take action. I think that's more important. And focus on things that is within your means. Don't try to change things which are beyond you, for example, government policy and so on. And try to reach out. I think one good example case study that was shared by my head was Pastor Furautan was sharing one of the SE under MaGIC, Pantang Plus. So they are doing confinement services, postnatal services. So initially, they were unable to operate, unable to operationalize. So what they did was they reached out to MaGIC, MaGIC helped to reach out to MDEC, and eventually MDEC helped to reach out to Ministry of Health or to Kementerian Kesihatan, who eventually recognized that people can't wait to deliver babies. This is under essential items. So eventually they get a letter that enables them to continue their business as usual. So sometimes you just need to leverage on your network, especially those who are associated with MaGIC. So I think that's all, and keep positive, and hopefully everyone do their part to ensure that Malaysia will get better and we will be able to fight this virus together.
Yeah, I think people are finding it hard to let you go sebab ada lagi satu question kat sini. If everybody don't mind. As a general public, kan, what can we do to help the economy move along while still being prudent with our spending? There are like two things going on at the same time here. Kita nak tolong economy, economy move along, but at our end we also have to be prudent with our spending.
Yeah. I think number one is, of course, don't panic buy. Focus on the things that you actually need. I think that is important. And number two, of course, if preferably, if possible, do buy from our local merchants. I think that would indirectly help them sustain. And I was attracted because I saw certain posting. I think Farm Fresh, one of the local companies that produces the milk, they actually also have their poultry. They are selling meat as well. Before this, they are having difficulty to actually to approach companies or even hypermarket stores to actually sell their meat. But now, because of the corona pandemic, exports, imports are not moving as usual. So suddenly they are out of stock to actually supply. So this indirectly help them to build their strength and also build food security for our own nation. So I think it's essential for us to also buy the essential needs, preferably from our local merchants. So this will very help. And of course, if you have the extra, don't forget to also spend extra in charity. I think that's also important. For example, there's a lot of initiatives done by some of the social enterprises under MaGIC. So, I mean, this is very clear intention. You buy it for impact. When you buy, you indirectly helping the other beneficiaries. So I think this is also, yes, you save, spend on what is essential, support the local. At the same time, also don't forget that there are social enterprises that are actually running not for their own personal benefit, but also to actually provide impact to the beneficiaries.
Alamak, ada lagi satu lah, Zusuff. Ni Syed ni is asking, boleh tak suggestkan ruang perniagaan yang berpotensi tinggi jika PKP ini dilanjutkan? Sebab right now dia pun macam, I mean, you nak cari ruang perniagaan, understand where it's coming from, tapi tak boleh nak keluar pergi jauh, kan? Where can he find that?
I think a lot of items are actually, I mean, people are still buying, but we might not be seeing it as obvious because we are not out there. We don't see people transacting face to face. But what we have to realize is that a lot of things have actually gone digital. Even people are buying fruits, buying vegetables through online. So now is a matter of, I mean, the basic essential thing is actually find what is the problem that most people are facing, and you can start off by asking. I'm sure that most of Malaysian, you have your own WhatsApp group of your community, the area that you live in. You can actually do a small validation, ask them what you, or you can test out. You can do grocery related services. Just test it out in the group and see whether there is any takers. So try to solve the problem that is faced by your community, and you can see that from the Facebook group, from the WhatsApp group that you are in. So you can, they are actually sharing what are their problems, getting what and not. So that is actually an opportunity for you. If you can solve it, that's actually an opportunity for you, because people still need to eat, people still need basic necessity stuff. So even at this point of time, people have more time learning. People are learning how to cook different recipes. People still want to get fit. So it's a matter of whether you can actually convince them. For example, in the case of Roslyn, she's a master yoga practitioner. So we can also learn from Roslyn in terms of how to get ourselves fit, and we can use technology to do that.
Yes, I do need that for myself. Rasanya tak ada dah lagi dah. Any more questions? So for the benefit of those out there who really want to continue this learning, MaGIC, we are still running a lot of programs, some physical, some online. So if you can give me 1 minute here, we share what's coming up. Let me share.
Yes, definitely. So while Roslyn is, maybe I stop sharing the screen and
Sure.
And I do really encourage. I think there's a lot of good programs. I mean, one of the strategy just now is about humanizing your organization. So it's important. I think a lot of courses in MaGIC are specifically tailored to humanize your offerings. So maybe I'll just pass it on to Roslyn.
Yes. There will be our social entrepreneurship bootcamp from 12 sampai 17 Mei. Deadline is today, so do hurry up. We've been extending it from last week. And happening at the same time is also our innovation and entrepreneurship bootcamp. Yang earlier tadi was for social entrepreneurs. This one is for our startups, or maybe tech-based or anyone. Also, deadline is today. So just go to our website page kat sini. Under my MaGIC, there's a page dedicated for bootcamps. You can find all the bootcamps information there. And of course, our global accelerator program still happening, very much happening. And registration will close next week on 16 to visit and apply and see how you can do that there. And last one is our startup challenge, still back. And you will see how you can be part of this. And ongoing all the time is our, of course, the Digital Business Academy, which is 85 modules of startup skills that you can take up at any time. So don't forget, visit us there. If you have any questions, drop your questions at our Facebook page, or any question for Zusuff kat sini. Tadi you dah send your put out your email address kan?
Yep.
So before we go, I would like to wish everybody here a very safe weekend, safe day. Be safe yourself. Thank you very much for joining us here kat Zoom and also there out on YouTube. And Master Tuan Zusuff, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for the opportunity to share. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you again. So wishing everybody Friday Barakah and a safe weekend for everyone. I'll see you again next week, Monday.
All right. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Take care.